Hey there, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading, wanting to thank you for stopping by to watch this interview and also make it clear to you that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies have been identified as opportunities for investment that could provide an above average return on our investment. This is our opportunity to get to know management, to understand the vision for the company, the strategy they plan to implement, and execute to achieve that vision for the company. So if you learn anything here today and you enjoyed the interview, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel.
Okay.
Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up interview with one of my favorites, Jin Kang from Widepoint. WYY is the ticker symbol. And Jin, we actually talked like what was it, last week or week before? Your stock is, it's a company I love. It's a company I own stock in. It has been a painful ride. I mean, and frankly, I'm shocked as to where the price sits today, right? I mean, and I'm sure you're not feeling real great about it either, right?
No.
Right.
No. Thank you, Tim, for having me on. And I hear you, brother. I'm in the same boat with you. I have a little over 5% of the company, and I bought that through the various open market buys that I've done over the years. I also got a large tranche of that when I sold my company back in 2008 to Widepoint, right? And so I'm in the same boat as you are. I don't understand why we are here where we are. I think the stock is, undervalued. I don't know if you've seen the latest Form 4s that were filed this week. I'm out there buying some shares. I wish I had more money to buy the company back. I wish I could. If I did, I would buy it all back. We feel that our stock is, very undervalued. Our revenue is, we're guiding to, 92 to $98 million in top line revenue. And so if you look at that as a multiple of where we are in terms of our stock price, I mean, it's ridiculously low, $2 a share, right? And they're valuing us at like roughly 17 or $18 million. With a revenue run rate, somewhere between 92 and 98 million. It doesn't make sense, right? And so I don't know, the reasons why our share price is so low. But I am out there, buying some shares. We have some other insiders buying this week as well. Our operating officer and our CFO went out and bought some shares this week. I'm still out there, buying shares. As I said, if I had more money, I would buy more shares. But at the same time, I don't want to, move the market, right? And so we have to be very careful about going in there and, buying the shares and not to affect, too much the share price, right? Of what's out there.
No, actually, I just actually pulled up. So you got the CEO, the COO, picking up shares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some may view that as not a significant amount of shares being picked up, but the bottom line is this Widepoint stock makes up a significant amount of amount of your portfolio, right? I mean, you
Absolutely.
just said you got shares when you sold the company in 2008. You own roughly 5% of the company, right?
Yes. And I'm out there buying more, right? And so, if I had, unlimited funds, like I said, $17 million in market cap, I would go out and buy the entire thing if I could. If I had the money, I would. Hey, Tim, you got some loose change? Maybe, you can lend that to me. I can go and buy some of this.
Well, listen, and I think that is I think that does send a message to to the market, right? I mean, that you absolutely see this as undervalued. And we've talked about this before. We've talked about the fact that the small caps and the micro cap space have been under pressure in general, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
hasn't been
It's still,
necessarily
yeah,
a company specific thing. It's been more of a market thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
but if you would have asked me, geez, you think it's going to go back to $2? I mean, no, I
yeah,
would have
yeah.
never anticipated that this was going back to $2 because why? You've executed, Jen, since you've taken over, and the company was on the brink of really literally going BK,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
We were on
you're
life support. Yeah,
you're in good cash position. You've got a healthy backlog, right? Or of
yeah,
projects.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no reason why we're here. I mean, we ended the second quarter with 7.2 million in cash, and we're continuing to execute our plan for organic and inorganic growth. Right. Our sales pipeline is healthiest that it's been in a long, long time. You saw probably the last three or four press releases. I'll just go down the line. And we had K through 12 pilot that we released just a few days ago.
Let's
Uh,
talk about the K-12 thing. Let's expand upon.
sure.
Explain to me how the K-12 thing is developing and what it means for you guys potentially.
Right. So the K through 12 is, we're providing the logical and physical access, the digital, identity for K through 12 schools. We're taking a phased approach, which means what we're doing is we're rolling out this identity management solution, which is quantum resistant, meaning, you use our certificates, our identity certificates, you can go in and you log into your systems, access your emails, encrypt your emails, sign your emails, all of these things, identity management solution. We're rolling it out to the what we call those folks with elevated privileges, your system administrators, your operators, the people that set your configuration, and those folks. And so those are folks are, very sensitive. If those credentials are compromised, you essentially wipe out the entire system for a particular K through 12 a region, right? And so we're locking those folks down with the strongest identity management solution available on the market, right? And so they will be using these cards to get logical access to their system, using this chip here, right? And they'll be using that to get access to their computer systems. So they're going to replace the user ID and passwords, and they're going to replace the one-time use passcodes, which we know the user ID and passwords have been hacked. We know that one-time randomly generated numbers have been hacked. So we're replacing that with the strongest multi-factor authentication solution that is available on the market today, implemented in the Department of Defense, implemented in all of the federal government agencies, civilian federal government agencies, right? And yet, knock on wood, it has not been hacked, right? And we're rolling this out to the folks at all the K through 12. We have now 4 pilots going, and we're rolling this thing out to the folks with elevated privileges, systems administrators, systems operators, people who have super user privileges within a school system, right? And so they'll be using that to get access to their systems. Once that's done, and once that is proven, we're going to be rolling it out to all of the faculty, staff, maintenance workers, and then we're going to roll it out to the students, and maybe even rolling it out to the parents, right? Each one of these certificates costs about $100 a year, right? So the students will use that to get to their training lesson plans, the grades, any type of reading material, all of these things, emails, all of that will be, they'll be using this type of credentials to get access to their systems, right? And it will secure these folks. And so what does that mean in terms of revenue, right? Right now, because the number of elevated users are pretty small, probably a handful when you get down to any particular school, maybe you have a half a dozen, right? So we're starting small, a few $100s here, a few $100s there. But once we roll it out to the faculty and staff and the kids and the parents, Can you imagine how big this thing is going to get, right? Um, as I said, $100 a year for a 1-year credential, or $300 for a 3-year credential. And so you can see how this thing can continue to just grow exponentially, right? And so we're in the process of, as I said, piloting it for the various schools. And there's a potential for using these digital certs for, like a universal ID, right? Driver's licenses, you name it, right?
Yeah, we actually talked about that.
Yeah.
The last interview, because to me it seems like, why wouldn't we do that, right? Because for efficiency, but then I guess there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of jobs to be kept if you are in an inefficient system, right? I mean, if you had your passport, your driver's license, your insurance, your social security, all on one form of identification,
Sure.
well, that then you wouldn't need a whole bunch of, right?
Yeah. Your passport number, your social security number, your driver's license number, all can be stored on that one chip, right? And so you carry around a single, form factor. You can, essentially get you access to everything that
citizenship. I mean, I can just go
voters registration, right?
Voter registration, all of that. And but I guess maybe that would panic some people, right? Because, well, what if you do get hacked and you've got all my information on one card, right?
So there is that, the danger of, a single point failure. But the thing about that is that, the information we're talking about, your fingerprint, your social security number, that will reside on this chip and this chip alone. It's not going to be out, other places, right? The only thing that we're storing on our servers is what we call the private key that is registered. And that private key server it cannot be hacked, by an internet user. And the reason for that is because that particular server has an air gap around it. It's got an air gap. You actually have to be in the same room with that server in order to look up a private key. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Once it's issued to you, you and only you have it on that card. And if you lose that card, or somebody try to hack into that chip, it'll wipe itself out, right? And so that's why it's so secure, right? Yes, it could pose a single point failure if you have all of those things on there, but it is pretty secure, right? It is the most, secure multi-factor authentication that is available on the market. That is quantum computing resistant. I can't say that enough. I mean, all of these other solutions, if you have quantum computers, they just use a brute force method to break into that, right? But not this, because even with the current quantum computing technology, even if they were able to ramp up their processing power, we would just increase the number of bits that we currently use. 512-bit encryption, we can go to 1024. That would take twice the amount of capabilities to be able to do that, if that makes sense, right? So that capability, or the computing power, grows exponentially, right? And so that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're doing with the K through 12. And if you go into any state, the largest employer, or one of the largest employer, will be K through 12. I mean, can you imagine? Just think about how many schools you have in a particular district, how many schools, how many teachers, administrators, engineers, school bus drivers, students now, and parents. I mean, it's not even a close competition, right? And so that's the market that we're going after and looking to capture in 2023. Yeah.
And those are used also, I mean, to gain entrance into the school, right? Correct?
For physical access, yes. You can use these cards for physical access, right? And you can cancel that card anywhere over the air, right? So you issue this to a engineer, and that engineer is suspected of drunk driving. You just cancel his card, and he can't come back into the building, right? Same thing with any type of physical access. If you have an active shooter situation, you can lock down the doors of a schoolroom. Any classroom can be locked down, and the only way you can get in is with a valid approved user ID, right? And so there's a lot of those types of things that we could provide through, through this, a strong authentication. You identify every person, and you can set up, logical trees and access trees so that only certain people can have certain access to certain classrooms or certain buildings, or, can drive a bus, or, get into, the boiler room to set the temperature. All of these things can be controlled using digital ID, and not only the people, but you can issue digital IDs to Internet of Things, right? And that's why we're working with the beverage companies to be able to issue these digital certs onto those Internet of Things, right? And I think I talked about this the last time I spoke with you, is that we could put those digital IDs onto these robotic arms that injects, certain types of chemicals into your drinks, right? And, if you put too much of a particular type of chemical into a drink, I mean, they could pose to be, poisonous to an individual, right? And so, your best case is that, the drink doesn't taste like it's supposed to, or in the worst case, it could end up in death, right? You can have bottles and bottles of these stuff that go out to, retails and supermarkets, and, people get sick or they die, right? I mean, so that's what we're talking about, is locking down that infrastructure, physical and logical access, with the strongest multi-factor authentication solution available on the market, right? And of course, because we manage more of these devices than anybody else in the federal government, that logical confluence of events is happening, in that, we're merging our phones with our digital certs, right? And so, and instead of carrying around both of these things, all you need to do is to carry around your mobile device, right? And so that's what we're shooting for. And I think we also talked about, our expanding work with a sports media company. And so they're rolling their services out nationwide. And what we're doing is we're helping them secure their infrastructure. And we're also providing, IT as a service. So as they grow and as they add on additional states and additional, localities, what we're doing is that we're providing that IT services. So you probably saw a press release on that about, the sports media company, where we, are continuing to expand our work there, right? Mm-hmm. And then, we put out another press release for, a bunch of commercial contracts that we won with financial, banks, healthcare sector, and we're continuing to, move out into the commercial world, and we're upselling and we're cross-selling, our customer. You saw the managed mobility press release that we put out about a beverage company. So the beverage company, not only are we selling the IT as a service, where we outsource the management of their IT infrastructure, we're also helping them secure it using these digital certs. And now what we're doing is we're helping them manage their mobile devices, right? And so it's the land and expand model that we've been using. And we're continuing to, gain traction there. And as I said earlier in our, unrecorded section is that we're seeing, a lot of, acquisition activities that are happening, and it's starting to, slow up, because starting to, gain speed here, because COVID is slowing down. And, there's pent up demand for all of these services that have been on hold. And these acquisition folks are starting to, roll out. We're seeing that in the commercial side as well as on the federal side.
Okay. So, okay. All in all, Jin, would you say WYY is stronger today than they were 6 months ago?
Definitely. We haven't seen, our sales pipeline has been it's been the healthiest that I've seen, probably in the company's history, right? We see, a lot of these opportunities coming to fruition now. They're in the sales pipeline, and we're taking a conservative approach in that, when we put out our percentage of win, a lot of our, managers and project managers and account managers put like 100%, win rate, percentage of win. And we say, well, you don't know until you actually get the signed contracts. And so maybe we could put it at 90%, right? And so we have a lot of opportunities that are at 90%, because we know those contracts are coming. And it may be the timing of those contracts or not, it's difficult to tell. But we know the customer said, hey, Jin, hey, Todd, hey, Jason, we got this contract. We need to have this service. And we got the budget in our program to acquire those services, right? And so we know that these things are going to happen. It's just a matter of when they happen, right? And the matter of when is a little tricky, especially on the federal government side, because we are now on sort of a continuing resolution until the December, I think 12th or the 16th, I forget which day, but it's mid-December, and the reason for that is the federal government has to come to an agreement as to when they're going to sign the president's budget into law, right? And so far as I know, there's still a lot of horse trading that's happening in Congress to decide what's going to be funded, how much is going to be funded, and all of those things. And so we are on a continuing resolution. I just looked up the date, and it's on the 16th of December. And so the federal government has the authorization to spend what they spent the previous year under this emergency spending bill that they signed. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And so the new projects and new contracts, new efforts won't spin up until the final contract is signed. There's the good news, and the bad news is that the bad news is we don't know when the money is going to start flowing for the new programs.
The good news is it's going to flow at some point.
Yeah, it will. It will, right? They will come to an agreement. There'll be some, give and take from the Democrats and the Republicans, and they will sign this thing into law, right? So the bad news is we don't know when this thing is going to happen. The good news is that as the schedule continues to push to the right, the amount of time that they have to spend that money gets shorter. Does that make sense? So now what's going to happen is that there's going to be a flurry of activities that's going to happen, like mid next year, where they're going to say, well, gosh, we only have 6 months to spend a year's worth of funds. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes.
And so the good news is there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be, pushing to the right, and there's going to be an impetus to spend that. The bad news is we don't know when that's going to happen, right? And so we're prepared. We have a lot of, shovel-ready projects that are ready to go, and we've been working with our, government counterparts to look at where they needed the services. And so there's pretty, several large opportunities that will have a material impact on our managed services revenue. And
the
I said that
Department
in our
of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security, that was the big, that was the big concern for a long time. You had the original contract, and then you were up for the extending, and everybody was worried that maybe you weren't going to get it, and then you got it, right?
Yeah.
Roughly $500 million, right?
Yeah.
I think somewhere along those lines.
Correct. $500 million, spending. Yes. Spending cap. And so, the good news again there is that we have now captured roughly $350 million of work under that contract. So that's guaranteed for that we're going to continue to capture that business as long as they continue to, buy our services for the duration of the contract. We've captured up to $350 million of that. What that means is we still have $150 million to spend. And these programs these material contracts that we're talking about accounts for some of that. And if we, spend all of the 150 that's on top of that, the Department of Homeland Security has the option of increasing the cap from $500 million to 600, which they did in the previous iteration of the contract. The previous iteration was a 5-year contract, and it went for 8, right? And so and we spent over $620 million on that. We captured over $620 million. So it's a fairly stable customer, and we see that continuing. But there are material projects within that contract vehicle and other contracts that we have that is making our sales pipeline really, really robust, both federal and commercial, right? We talked about the K through 12. If we lock down one state at $100 per user, let's say, just very conservatively, if we could do that, and you have one school district that's like 30,000 schools and school teachers and administrators, that's a pretty meaningful number, right?
And that's annually, so it's $100 a
Correct.
year.
Correct.
So that's like a reoccurring revenue stream, very predictable.
Correct.
Right, cash flow.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's a nice model to have.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Right. And so, conservatively, if we're talking about 10,000 users, every 10,000 users will represent roughly $1 million in revenue, right? And so if you go 30,000, 40,000, now the number continues to go up. And the digital certificate model is a fairly, high gross margin. We pay for all of our fixed costs, and all of the issuance and all of the security measures that we have to provide, and the operational side have been paid for already, the fixed costs. So every time we issue these digital certs, I mean, it's almost pure revenue, right? I would say somewhere in the order of 80%, right? And so that's what we're talking about. And so we're pretty excited about where we're headed with this. And not only the identity management portion, we're also talking about our unified communication and analytics. We haven't released any of the things that were happening in our unified communication, the stuff that we're doing out of Ireland and Softex. We did mention that we had a contract with CSG International, and their customers are customers like Frontier, Spectrum, T-Mobile, Cox Communication, AT&T. And what we're doing is we're providing them our solution called Digital Billing and Analytics. And we see signs of CSG starting to engage with us. And in the next, either before the end of this year or in the first quarter of next year, we should see a lot of activities there. And that's, again, it's a software as a service model, which has a fairly robust gross profitability margin. And you'll hear, press releases coming out on that front, as I said, either the end of this year or beginning of next year. And so we see a lot of exciting things happening as this COVID is starting to wind down. I think people are tired of, staying home. People want to get back to work. And, there's a lot of pent up, demand for our services. And I think it's starting to happen because we see our sales pipeline continuing to grow.
I mean, this doesn't sound like a company that's getting ready to go BK.
No, we are not going. We're not going belly up anytime soon. Right.
Yeah. So, but if you look at the chart, it sure as hell looks like that, doesn't it? Right.
I mean, you see the company, our stock price is continuing to, go down. But look, I believe in the company. I own, as I said, over 5% of the company. I'm continuing to add to my position. I wish I had more money so that I could buy it all back at these prices. I mean, it's just insanely low price, right?
So you got $23 billion addressable market, right?
Which is continuing to grow, right? Because in leaps and bounds, because people are working, from remote areas. I don't see, even with the ending of COVID, I don't see that us coming back to the office. We're going to be in this hybrid environment for a long time. There's going to be a lot of these mobile devices that are going to be, used all over the place. And people are going to access their computer system from everywhere. The number of endpoints that are coming into your infrastructure is continuing to explode, right? And they all need to be secured, and that's what we do. We secure these devices, and we provide the strongest multi-factor authentication solution that is available on the market today, bar none. That has yet to be hacked, even by the vaunted Pegasus program out in Israel, right? And so, knock on wood, if and when the quantum computing computers is a reality, we'll just continue to increase the hash size, and that should keep the quantum computing hackers at bay for the foreseeable future.
All right, so you've got a growing pipeline, best you've seen ever
in the company's history. Yeah,
the company's history. You have no debt.
Zero debt.
You have 7.2 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
You've got how many shares outstanding, fully diluted, Jen?
I think that there's about 8.5 million or 8.8 million, somewhere around there.
8.8 million fully diluted.
Fully diluted, right?
Yeah. Which is an uber tiny float.
Right.
I mean, that's actually tiny amount of shares outstanding. The float got to be the float's got to be somewhere, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. Yeah, let's say be wildly conservative or liberal. Let's say 50% of that is the float, right? So we're talking 4.5 million shares.
This is just mind blowing to me. I mean, it really is. We're gonna get to the chart in a minute. I just want to see if there's anything else. You got the beverage company that you've got some stuff going on with, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where you're talking about the arms with the filling of the bottles.
Right. All the Internet of Things, that's what we're talking about, right? And so there's a lot of those, and they all need to be secured, right? And if you can just imagine how many devices that are out there, right? And how many users need to access those devices, right? It's not just one bottling company. These bottling companies act in a consortium of, North America, globally, right? And so if you look at the manufacturing, like let's say, if you take Coca-Cola or Pepsi, well, they have bottling plants all over the world, right? And they, and the reason for that is that they're geographically located in the various parts of the world. And so that they can, minimize the logistics costs associated with that, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you look at the number of devices, just the number of devices at a particular bottling plant, or the number of, people that are working at these bottling plants, I mean, the number, just grows pretty quickly, right? While it's not as many as the K through 12 market, it's a significant, a number of devices and number of people. Right.
Let me ask you a question. When a person is setting up this identity their card, do they have to? I mean, how does that work? They have to come and see you or see somebody where they take a picture and do the fingerprints and to verify all the data that's going to be on that card, right? How is that process done?
Right. So in the old days, you would have to do it. The person has to physically come into the office. But now what we have done is we have streamlined our processes and procedures, and we have, systems integrated so that you don't have to come in anymore, right? We can issue you your digital certs, by having a Zoom session like this, right? You will provide all of the information that you need. Then we will have readers and such for your fingerprint or creating your PIN number and things of that sort. And we've tested that process, and we have now vetted that process and certified it to the point where we can now remotely vet users so that we could issue these digital certs. And depending on what level of security you need, we could still do the physical issuance, right? And our model for the K through 12 and some of these bottling industry customers is that we're going to set up an on-prem solution so that they go in and do the process in the cell. We'll train their folks, we'll set up the system, and then we would, since we are the certificate authority, we will issue those digital certs and keep those private keys locked away, safe and secure in our secure knock, right? But we now have the capability to issue these digital certs remotely, right? Okay. And that's a huge differentiator.
That is a huge
for us. And our competitors cannot do that at this point, as far as we know. We tested the process, and we are finding good traction, and as I said, in some of our commercial and our state and local and federal government customers.
Right. You could tell me about some of the stuff you're going on, but you'd have to kill me, right? Because
I don't have to, the stuff that we're doing is fine. It's just that, what people use these credentials for, if I knew them, I would have to kill myself and everybody else.
All right. So let's see. Secure hosting solution, security, cloud mobility. I mean, you've got, look, to me, it seems like, this need isn't going to go away. Department of Homeland Security is, I think, a good validation of your product. I don't know. Something just screams to me that is a pretty big deal, right? The Department of Homeland Security. Department
of Homeland Security is a pretty big deal because they are charged with, protecting the homeland, right? And what does that include? That includes things like, nuclear material, chem bio, right? All of these things could, terrorists could bring these things onto our shores. Well, is there any type of solutions or applications that could, could work with in conjunction with these mobile devices that can help us detect and deter and prevent, right? And so, and I think, that's another market that we are looking at right now. And again, there's a lot of activities happening, a lot of exciting things.
How about our energy grid? I mean, how about our energy grid?
Energy grid, right? And so when there was a ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline, we broached those folks and potentially putting the digital search onto their Internet of Things, right? And so these things are happening. We're working on those things, and we're talking to those folks, at all of at various levels. And as I said, I think that there's a big pent up demand for the digital search and identity and access management and physical and logical access. They need a strong identity and access management solution. Everybody does, right? And so we had recently announced probably about 3 or 4 months ago, where we said that we had set up a commercial certificate authority. We did that so that we could bring the strongest multi-factor authentication solution to the commercial market, right? And so we stood up the physical infrastructure to be able to issue these digital certs to the commercial world. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of this activity.
All right, my repair guy, just I'm going to put this on pause for a second. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So let's, is there anything else that is you feel as though we haven't really addressed? Or
no, I don't think so. I mean, from the economic, macro headwinds and macro tailwinds, I think, we're in great shape, right? Financially, we have the solutions that people are looking for, especially, in this post-pandemic environment. We have a great, primary customer, which is Department of Homeland Security, that's continuing to, gain additional missions. And so we feel pretty good. Our sales.
These are, I'm just looking at your customers here, right? Your commercial and your public. And I mean, NASA, right? These are some
U.S. courts, Army Corps of Engineers. A fairly large organization, universities, Penn State, Ohio State. Maybe you're not a Big Ten, a fan, but there are lots of demands for our services everywhere, right? And so, As I said, I think that there's been a pent up demand for our services during this pandemic, and I think it's going to continue. And as we, go get back to work, there's a lot more activities in the acquisition side, where the companies are starting to procure our services, and we've seen a lot more requests for proposals and a lot more requests for quotes, from those customers.
Yeah, I mean, Humana,
Humana,
Cisco, I mean, General Dynamics.
general healthcare, lots of healthcare, locals, city of Columbus, and yeah, I mean, the CSG. I mean, we talked about all of that.
Here's the thing. I mean, Jen, I know that since you came in, the company has executed and done everything it said they were going to do.
Yep.
Right. So I don't know why Wall Street doesn't want to reward the company for doing everything that they said they're going to do. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they're, throwing everything out with the, baby out with the bathwater, right? They don't care. They're not picking and choosing. Essentially, they're saying, well, the all of these large cap companies and, technology companies are taking it, I mean, they're really, the market is taking a meat axe to them. So what that means is they're going to throw the nano caps, the micro caps all out with that, right? And so, these large companies catch us cold, and nano caps, micro caps, we catch the flu or the COVID, right? And so that's kind of where we are. But the thing about it is we have a very healthy immune system, and we're continuing to execute. Our balance sheet is strong, and we're going to continue to execute. We are still looking around for our acquisition, and we're down to several good choices. And we're moving forward, both inorganic and organic growth. I mean, we're executing, and so we are continuing to make progress on our inorganic acquisition front. And when we have something material to share, we'll put out a press release. We need to be very careful on that front because we don't want to put the cart before the horse.
You're not one of those firms that's going to put out a bunch of fluff.
Right.
Which
right.
Is, look, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be involved in a firm that's just putting out a bunch of fluff all the time. Right. Because is it really material? Does it really matter? I mean, or are you just putting out a press release in hopes that you're going to get a little bounce in the stock? I mean, like I said, you have executed. You have not been rewarded for what you have accomplished. I don't believe. The stock being down here, and we're talking, I think it's lower than it's, wait a minute.
That's close. It's close.
It's like damn close to the lowest it's ever been. And that was back when the company was damn near defunct. I mean, it was damn near going to go under.
Right.
And you're back at those levels.
I know
it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense to me.
But you know what? Wall Street, there's an old saying, they will either wear you out or scare you out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is opportunity. And if you understand what you own, at some point, I have to believe that the fundamentals and the execution, you will be rewarded at some point. I have to believe that.
Yeah.
Right? Once somebody starts to figure it out, and it's coming. It will come. This is an opportunity. I'm not going to tell anybody to buy the stock. That's not what I do. I can just present the story and say, look, your risk reward at this level. I mean, you're going back to 2009 is when this stock was at that level. And in 2009, I am going to tell you, you probably didn't have close to the revenues that you have today.
No, absolutely not. And that's why it's just like, it's crazy. Right. And so that's why I'm out there buying. I mean, I really do believe that the company is in very solid footing. We have a very bright future. And I'm out there, trying to buy some shares, nibbling here, nibbling there. And I'm in the same boat with you, Tim. I'm a longtime shareholder, and I'm a real believer in WYPoint. And I'm going to continue to add at these lower levels. And
you're a straight shooter, Jin. You're a
yeah,
straight shooter. You're transparent.
yeah, we're not a pump and dump company, right? We want to give you, when we put out a press release, it's a meaningful press release. And when we go out and when we say that, hey, we are engaged with, this particular company to do some acquisition, you'll know that that's for true. That's a fact. It's not, it's not a pump and dump ploy.
Right. So I look at it like this: risk reward. We're at 2009 levels with a far stronger company, like not even remotely close to. I mean, this is a whole different company, zero debt, very small float. It does not take much. It would not take much for this thing to. I could see this thing going back to $10 in a heartbeat, literally in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah,
with one press release.
Yeah, it's just a matter, as I said, we have material contracts potential that are in our sales pipeline. And when that happens, I mean, you'll see a lot of excitement, and rightly so, because it's going to have a huge impact. And there's a lot of, opportunities like that in our sales pipeline.
Right. All right. So look, we probably took too much time in between our first one and our second one. We're going to have to stay a little more connected with you, I think,
Okay.
to continue to get this story out there. Right. But Jin, I want to thank you for taking the time and coming in. I mean, I do have people that are in the stock that are, this is one of the rougher holdings for them. And I don't have answers. And that's why I wanted to have you come back and just say, look, is there anything fundamental that has changed that makes this move right? And there isn't. You don't get it. I don't get it. And at some point, it's going to turn. I truly believe that.
It will. I mean, we're not going out of business. Okay. So just understand that, we're going to continue to, execute. And, when we close on some of these material contracts and we do a huge acquisition, things will change, the calculus will change. And, I'm here for the long run. Right. And so, I thank you for your time, Tim, and I really appreciate your support. And, we're going to continue to operate. We're going to continue to execute.
Now, all I can say is, Jin, keep doing what you're doing. If you're interested in following you don't want to buy the stock today, I at least recommend putting it on your watch list, and then, go to their website, go to investor relations, and sign up for their email alerts, right? Yeah. Stay on top of the story.
Widepoint.com.
Right? And that's right up here, right above my head, which side, right above my head.
Yeah, right above
sign
your head.
up, right? And follow the story, because I think, in the next 12 to 18 months, I think you're going to be very pleased. That's my belief.
Yeah.
All right, Jin.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
You,
I'm gonna cut off the recording here. And hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in to yet another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had Jin Kang, CEO of WYY Widepoint Inc. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. Why not give us a share? And while you're at it, how about giving us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.